let's take in a big development that's come in the Cordelia Cruise bus case involving Aryan Khan. After 26 days in the lockup, NIA has now given him a clean chit in the case.
So a press note that has now been released based on the input of the NCB Mumbai that intercepted many of these people, including Aryan Khan at the Cordelia cruise. All of those accused persons found in possession of narcotics except Aryan, and initially the case that was being registered was constituted. The team that was constituted to investigate the case was taken over by the SIT, and the SIT carried out investigation in an objective manner. Let me go across to Bhavtosh now, because Bhavtosh, it is being said that the complaint against at least 6 of these people is not being filed due to lack of sufficient evidence.
Well, in fact, a big question mark on Sameer Wankhede, who carried out the probe right from day one and went on till High Court questioning Aryan Khan and also Shah Rukh Khan. In fact, he was the one who said that he had WhatsApp chats and went ahead and said that Aryan Khan was part of a drug network, and NCB, the then NCB team, in fact, backed him. And now questions will be asked as to what NCB Mumbai was doing. In fact, a huge relief to Shah Rukh Khan and also to Aryan Khan, the very fact that NCB is now not filing a charge sheet against him. But questions will obviously be raised as to what NCB Mumbai was doing. Youngster was in fact arrested for nearly 1 month on charges of drugs, and also the very fact that he was in fact booked on a very serious offences of NDPS. Now, one must remember that he spent nearly a month behind bars. His bail was in fact opposed by NCB Mumbai, and he was in fact the bail was opposed till the High Court. And right from day one, his WhatsApp chats were also leaked. Not only Aryan Khan, but even other Bollywood youngsters like Ananya Pandey, she was also summoned, and entire a drama was created as if youngsters in Bollywood were consuming drugs. And this is not the first time Sameer Wankhede had been under the scanner of several agencies, that he was using this entire clout, if you can say, a network of drug peddlers as well as some local criminals, and was creating this drama that he was there to bust entire nexus which was operating in Bollywood. It was only because of some individuals that it came out that he in fact was planting drugs. Now, this statement that we have accessed of NCB clearly shows that there was no evidence against Aryan Khan. But one must also raise a question mark as to what NCB was doing when Sameer Wankhede was heading NCB. The very fact that his bail was opposed from the Metropolitan Court, then to the Sessions Court, then to High Court, youngsters' WhatsApp chats were also leaked. Now, one must remember that...
Mr. Mukul Rohatgi is with us on the phone line. Yes, Pratibha.
Mr. Mukul Rohatgi is with us on the phone line. Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, now the NCB statement coming in, giving a clean chit to Aryan Khan, saying no sufficient evidence.
It is no surprise to me, because when I argued the bail more than 6 months ago, at that time itself it was clear that there was no material against Aryan Khan. He was wrongly accused, he was wrongly arrested, he was not in possession of any narcotics at all. So how can there be any case? But I'm happy that the NCB has realized that there was no case against him, and therefore the charge sheet has not been filed, and he has been honorably left out of the picture and discharged.
Right, but Mr. Rohatgi, it was just till recently, even NCB had called the speculation of the reports of non-availability of evidence against Aryan Khan in Mumbai cruise drug case. They were still pressing on the matter that the case will continue till recently, sir.
Madam, ultimately good sense has prevailed. They have realized that there is no point flogging a dead horse just because he is a celebrity or he is the son of a celebrity. And therefore, ultimately truth has prevailed, and I am happy about it.
Right. Mr. Rohatgi, it's a vindication of your stand, but how do you plan to take it forward now? Because Aryan Khan was in jail for about 26 days.
Madam, that is past now. Nothing can be done about that. One should forget that. and one should be happy and relieved that nothing, I mean, there will be no further worries or no further problems. I think we should just close it and call it a day.
Now, I'm sure, Mr. Radke, because this is something, would you raise questions on the NCB investigation? Because it was a high-profile case nonetheless, but a man who has now been said to have insufficient evidence against him was behind bars for several days, sir. So what happened to that said investigation?
Point now going back on it, there are hundreds of cases in which people are arrested, but charge sheets are not filed. This is one of those. And as I told you, I'm happy that truth has come out and the prosecution has realized that they were flogging a dead horse. They made a grievous mistake in keeping a person in jail for nearly a month. But I mean, that is past. One should forget the past and look at the future. Now the future is bright for this young man, and I'm very happy about it.
Okay. Sir, so you're saying you're not seeing it as harassment as he was in jail for 26 days, but have you had a word perhaps with Aryan Khan, Shah Rukh Khan on the case?
No, madam, I have not had a word. Your phone call has now informed me that charge sheet has been filed. I had no idea. I will certainly speak to Shah Rukh Khan and Aryan Khan and congratulate them that ultimately truth has come out and their stand has been vindicated.
Right, so it is said to be a voluminous charge sheet, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Radke, for taking out your time and speaking to us. We'll also have Arunil and Bhavtosh who continue to be with us. So Arunil, as far as this charge sheet is concerned, what more can you tell us? Because also a clean chit by the NCB in the investigation, the questions are now being raised on the investigative officer too.
Well, clearly pressure mounts on Samir and his team, because if we remember, a chat was also leaked by the NCB to several media outlets regarding a chat that took place between. A screenshot was shared by the NCB officials regarding a chat between Aryan Khan and Ananya Pandey, the actress. Now, who leaked that chat just before a crucial court hearing? That is also a big question that arises. We have seen that how Samir Wankhede has been shifted to another department now, which has been shifted outside the Narcotics Control Bureau, and that time clearly trouble mounted for him, because the witnesses that Samir Wankhede had used, one witness was basically, he had criminal complaints against him. He was basically an absconder. He had duped people. But the biggest, most significant news at present is that a 6,000-page charge sheet is being filed in the court by the NCB, and the NCB in its press note clearly mentioning about it that Aryan Khan was not found with any drugs. So he has literally been given a clean chit by the Narcotics Control Bureau. That is the top news at present, and we spoke to his lawyer also. They have been saying that he may have spent time at the Arthur Road jail, but at present he has been given the clean chit by the NCB. That is the most significant news. That is the most happy news for Shah Rukh Khan's family. Now, whether SRK and his legal team will be initiating any legal action against the NCB and its officers, that will also, we'll be keeping a close eye on.
We just spoke to the senior advocate Mukul Rohatgi, who represented Aryan Khan in court, and he said we're going to let the past be and not going to challenge it. That's what he said for now. But Bhavtosh, questions could be raised on the NCB, because when the case came to light as well, there was a lot of focus on it, on whether he is being targeted because he is Shah Rukh Khan's son. Now the NCB telling court that we don't have enough evidence against him. How would the case proceed? All right, before I come to you, we have Shiv Sena MP Mr. Arvind Sawant with us. Mr. Arvind Sawant, how do you look at it? The NCB is now telling the court that there was no proof, not sufficient proof against Aryan Khan.
I think kindly recall my speech in the parliament when the bill was introduced regarding the hike in the pension for the judges. During that speech only I have said it, that a young lad who has been arrested kept on trial for 40 days. And after 40 days, when they went to the High Court, the High Court itself, Honorable High Court itself has said it, that there is no issue in this, there is no case in this. And then they acquitted the child. And what is this? Today it has been accepted by ED itself. Now I ask the question to the ED and all concerned officers, under what circumstances you have played with the ball, that young boy, under the name of trial for 40 days. Are they not punishable? Are they not accountable? Are they not responsible? Are they not playing with the Constitution of India? These are all questions are being raised, and I said it. Who is the master behind it? Who is master behind this? How they arrested him then? That is what I have raised in the parliament today. It has been proved. And I have been proved correct. I am really happy for that. But still, one must introspect while doing so. That is what the actions of the ED are being questioned today. For the very reason. Because their move is always under doubt.
Right. But Mr. Sawant, would it be right to put a question mark on the entire investigation? Because there were certain leads that were being investigated by the NCB when it comes to drug hauls and the drug investigation within Bollywood, sir.
No, the issue is that nobody questions about the investigation. The question is that you are wrongly killing the person under the name of trial or doubt for days together, months together. That is unfair. You can carry the investigation. Why you want to have you play with the future of the child? Why did you play? Don't you understand? When you do all these things, and nowadays you see, before ED could take action, a political person comes on the channel and says that tomorrow he will be arrested. Day after tomorrow, the other person. Are you playing in the hands of the political party? This is what is happening. Is it that only in Maharashtra all people are there? There is nobody in the country. Just for the sake of power, you are defending the Maharashtra. And that is what is very objectionable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Sawant, thank you for joining us. Bhavtosh, coming back to you. So, the charge that had been leveled before is that Aryan Khan was being targeted. Now that the NCB has told the court that there is not enough proof, a lot of questions would be asked. In fact, Richa is joining us live with the document, the statement of the NCP.
That's right, Pratibha, and this is the press note that has now been issued by the NCB. This is the Deputy Director General Operations Sanjay Kumar Singh, and he says that based on the input, NCB Mumbai on 2nd of October 2021 intercepted Vikrant, Ishmit, Arbaz, Aryan and Gomit at the International Port Terminal MBPT and Nupur Mohak and Munmun at the Cordelia cruise. All the accused persons were found in possession of the narcotics except Aryan and Mohak. That's the big relief that has certainly come in for Aryan Khan. Initially, the case was investigated by the NCB Mumbai. Later on, an SIT from the NCB, in fact, New Delhi headquarters, headed by Shri Sanjay Kumar Singh, was constituted to investigate the case. The SIT carries out its investigation with the objective manner, and the touchstone of the principle of proof beyond reasonable doubt has been applied. Because there were several questions being raised, and that's what they are mentioning about. Based on the investigation carried out by the SIT, a complaint against 14 persons under various sections of the NDPS Act had been filed. The complaint against the rest 6 persons is not being filed due to lack of sufficient evidence.
With us, as far as Sameer Wankhede is concerned, the man in question, we spoke to him a short while back, Priyank, on having this conversation with Sameer Wankhede, what he has to say on this case 7 months later.
Times now से Priyank.
बोलो Priyank.
Sir, this is an update. The NCB has given clean check to Aryan Khan. And
that is between the NCB and the accused. I am no more in NCB.
But sir,
काफी दिन हो गए मुझे छोड़ के NCB.
But you arrested him, and the probe was initially done by you.
नहीं मैं कहाँ.
जी सर.
क्या कमेंट अभी 5 महीने के बाद तुम मुझे पूछ रहे हो यार.
नहीं.
कौन प्रियंक? कहाँ
Sir, Times now से Priyank.
बोलो Priyank.
Sir, this is an update. The NCB has given clean check to Aryan Khan. And
that is between the NCB and the accused. I am no more in NCB.
But sir,
काफी दिन हो गए मुझे छोड़ के NCB.
But you arrested him, and the probe was initially done by you.
नहीं मैं कहाँ.
जी सर.
क्या कमेंट अभी 5 महीने के बाद तुम मुझे पूछ रहे हो यार.
नहीं सर.
कौन प्रियंक? कहाँ
सर? Times now से Priyank.
बोलो प्रियंक.
So this was the First reaction from Samir Wankhede. He said now he is no longer part of the NCB, does not have much to say about it. Bhavtosh, so now questions would be raised on the NCB. Why is it that he was in jail for 26 days when now the court is being told that there was no proof against him?
Well, that's something that not only Samir Wankhede but even the NCB needs to answer, because this entire drama was created as if Aryan Khan was a part of a drug network, and he was in fact running an international drug network. If you remember the statement that was issued on 2nd of October and 3rd of October, it was created, an impression was created as if Aryan Khan was running a drug network which has links with the international cartel, and on that very reason Aryan Khan had to spend 26 to 28 days. The Bombay High Court in fact questioned as to why a medical test was also not done, because Aryan Khan at least is someone who was accused of being part of consuming drugs, and no medical test was conducted. Not only him, but two of his close friends were also subjected to the same kind of harassment, and Aryan Khan in fact subjected to maximum harassment.
All right, interrupting you, apologies. Mr. Majid Memon is with us on the phone line. Mr. Majid Memon, the case highlighted, a lot of high-profile case it was, but yes, when it comes to a certain drug investigation in Bollywood, a lot of political bickering also that happened over it. Today, the NCB press note says that there is insufficient evidence against Aryan Khan.
Now, see, Aryan Khan is the son of a celebrity. There was more noise than normally has taken place since his arrest and thereafter. But then let me tell you the legal position, the criminal jurisprudence. You see, if today, if NCB says that there is no evidence against him, a question is required to be asked whether there was evidence at the time when you effected arrest. And if it was, did it evaporate? Why did you arrest him? Because we have a clear law. Supreme Court, way back in 1994, in Jogendra Kumar's case, has warned all the arresting officers. Supreme Court says in its majesty that to have power to arrest is one thing, and to use that power is another. Now, if you have power to arrest somebody, you certainly, as the law-abiding agency, would use that power. But if your arrest has been mana fide, if it was done with reasons other than law, then certainly there is a question to be raised to an arresting person. Why did you arrest the person? This young boy with a reputed family, is a celebrity father, had to undergo torture, physical, mental, and even reputational, that he remained in custody in lockup for several weeks, more than 3 weeks, I believe. Now, who is going to compensate that? If you had arrested him without justification, if you had arrested him without any substantive evidence, without the justification for using the power of arrest, then you are accountable to that. And the court would simply not say that, well, he is discharged, so the ends of justice have met. The ends of justice have not fully met. Unless the court is satisfied and the officer can give satisfactory explanation as to in what circumstances he was arrested and how he has been discharged now.
All right, so the NCB must now explain what circumstances led to his arrest as well. Mr. Memon, thank you for joining us. In fact, Radhika is also joining us from outside the court, as the NCB told the court that there is not enough proof. Radhika, tell us what exactly happened in court and the statement that was made by the NCB.
As far as NCB is concerned, it's a submission of charge sheet that happened today. It's a 6,000-page charge sheet, a 10-volume charge sheet that was brought to the court roughly about 12 o'clock is when it was brought to the court. It went to the registry, and then of course it will later be submitted before the court. The court will of course decide on taking cognizance of it. Nothing was mentioned before the court because this is just submission and filing of charge sheet that happened by the NCB team. Of course, the NCB in Delhi put out that statement soon after the charge sheet was submitted, whereby it said that it has given clean chit. In fact, it is discharged at least about 6 accused from this case, which includes Aryan Khan as well. So yes, as far as court proceedings go, it is simply a submission and filing of the charge sheet, 6,000-page charge sheet. We're yet to get hands on that particular charge sheet because the process is still going on. It'll take a few hours for it to be filed, and then court will have to also take cognizance of it. So yes, as far as the charge sheet is concerned, several have been discharged, puts a lot of question mark on the investigation carried out by NCB Mumbai, headed by Sameer Wankhede, of course, simply because the investigations were carried out, but two courts also had refused to grant bail to Aryan Khan at that time. Third court, which is the Bombay High Court, that had finally granted him bail. So no sufficient evidence is what the NCB's SIT team in that particular statement has said, which is why Aryan Khan and 5 others have been discharged as far as this Cordelia drug bust case is concerned.
So Radhika, as far as the case now is concerned, how do we see it proceeding now? Because it's just not Aryan but others as well who have been said that there is insufficient evidence against them, but there are others who have been mentioned that the investigation against them will continue.
NCB to brief the media on what exactly happened. Press conference that's expected at 3 p.m. today on the Aryan case. So NCB has said in court that there is not sufficient proof against Aryan Khan. 26 days that he was in jail. A complaint had been filed against 14 people, but against 6 people the NCB has said that it does not have sufficient proof.
So the DG NCB will be briefing the media at around 3 p.m. on the SIT investigation that was being carried out in the Cordelia cruise case. Alright, Mr. Sanjay Hegde is with us on the phone line. Sir, legally speaking, as far as this investigation is concerned, do you believe with Aryan Khan being said and the others also insufficient proof against them, how do you believe it will impact the case, sir? Mr. Hegde?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear us, sir?
Yes, I can. See, the charge sheet essentially confirms that there was no case to begin with. For whatever reasons, the case was launched. The witnesses they were not available to back up what the investigating agencies first set out as their theory of the case. I do think that if Mr. Khan or his team were to take further legal proceedings for malicious prosecution, they might have a case against the agency itself. But very often when anybody is faced with these kind of charges and then is finally exonerated, the feeling is of overwhelming relief and that they do not necessarily want to trouble the courts again.
Right, but Mr. Hegde, it was not just that Aryan Khan was in possession of drugs. He was in jail for 26 days, but there were indications that were coming in that he is also involved in a bigger international drug racket. That's the indication that had come in after that entire ordeal. Now, for the NCB to tell the court that we don't have enough proof.
Well, at least thank Mr. Khan's stars that the NCB has at last acknowledged the truth. Now there are many other lesser fortunate people than Mr. Khan.
Mr. Hegde, just interrupting you, apologies for that. Mr. Amit Desai is with us on the phone line. Sir, your first reaction as far as the NCB saying no sufficient proof against Aryan Khan, your client?
Well, I think, I'm glad that ultimately the truth seems to have prevailed. On a fair and independent examination of the evidence, they've come to the right conclusion and they've applied the correct principles of law whilst taking this decision. So I think I'm obviously sitting far away, so I've just seen a little snippet of the press release just now. But yes, in the context of all that we argued before the bail court, quite happy that ultimately the department has applied the correct legal principles while taking a decision on the filing of the complaint.
Okay, Mr. Desai, but apart from a vindication of your stand in court, how do you view the fact that Aryan Khan was in jail for 26 days, after which the NCB comes out and says that we don't have enough proof?
You know, the process of a criminal investigation, it works in this direction. There have been cases where at the initial stage, the power of arrest is used. Investigation will reveal that there's no case. Though in this matter, is in fact an example of how we must consider and ponder over the use of the power of arrest. It's a matter which is being debated in courts for quite some time as to when to exercise the power of arrest. And that's something that we need to ponder over, because it's not in every matter that you should exercise the power of arrest. There should be a fair and thorough investigation before the exercise of the power of arrest. Absolutely. So that's something that we need to ponder over. But as you would have seen and heard the argument at the time of the bail, we even felt that the power of arrest was unjustified in the facts of this case at that initial stage.
Right, but Mr. Desai, do you believe that it was both a boon and a bane when it comes to Aryan Khan, because the way that he was arrested, and you've seen it at the longest, the time that he was spending so many times in court, rather when his bail was being rejected or wasn't being given to him because the NCB opposed it. Now today, 7 months later, a clean chit being given to him.
So, I mean, these are this is a case which actually, as I've said this in the past also, must give rise to a reflection on the fundamental issue of the power of arrest and the law on bail. A lot of articles were written. There's been a lot of debate and discussion on the subject, and it is exactly this kind of a case which gives rise to these kind of questions. And that's what needs to be looked at. It's unfortunate that Aryan went through those days of custody, but ultimately the legal principles have prevailed, the truth seems to have prevailed, and that's so far as Aryan is concerned. But I think the larger issue needs to be now reflected on, pondered over, and assessed as to what needs to be done in the context of the exercise of the power of arrest and the law.
Okay. All right, Mr. Desai, thank you for joining us. The man at the center of the controversy is Samir Wankhede, who was leading the probe. We also spoke to him, now no longer part of the NCB. Take a look at what he said.
Now, clean chit being given to Aryan Khan by NCB, how do you respond, sir? Hello? Arunil here from Times Now.
Achha.
How do you respond now, Mr. Wankhede?
Regarding?
NCB has given clean chit to Aryan Khan.
I cannot comment. I cannot be saying that. No agent. I'm sorry, Arunil.
But NCB is saying that there was no drugs found with Aryan Khan. Was it the case?
I'm very sorry, I cannot comment. You ask the proper officers who are allowed to comment.
Are you also under the ambit of the investigation now from the NCB side?
All right, so speaking first with the man in question, Samir Wankhede, who was leading this investigation while the arrest was being made. Arunil, we spoke to him on 2 occasions. Twice he has been denying as far as not being a part of the case anymore, saying 5 months later he cannot comment on the case anymore.
Well, clearly under pressure, Samir Wankhede over here, because if we remember, when the arrest was made of Aryan Khan, immediately on the next day, we were covering it right throughout, and there came an arrest memo from the NCB side. Obviously, it was shared on the official NCB media group, and in that arrest memo, the quantity of drugs that were recovered from Aryan Khan were mentioned in that arrest memo. Now the NCB is saying that there were no drugs recovered from Aryan Khan. So who exactly was lying? It was obviously then why Samir Wankhede comes under immense pressure, because the kind of witnesses that time who have been used.
Right, I believe Mr. S.N. Pradhan is with us on the phone, with us on the broadcast. We'll be just quickly going to him for an update. Mr. Pradhan, your first reaction on the case that has been now filed by the NCB in court, saying they have insufficient proof against Aryan Khan, sir.
Yes, Priyank this side, and we are joined by the DG of NCB who was supervising this particular case, which came up of so much of high importance because of high-profile people being involved in this. Mr. Pradhan, what is the status of this case? Because what we have got to know through the press release, that the NCB is filing a charge sheet in this case, and certainly few of the individuals, including Aryan Khan, will not be, you did not find any sufficient evidence against him?
I'll not name any person because it is a routine case for us, first of all. Second is that we have gone by the principle of evidence which is beyond reasonable doubt. Unfortunately, the investigation that was initially done had some loopholes, and probably that is why the reasonable doubt principle could not be satisfied in some cases. So the sum of it is that a charge sheet has been filed on the basis of evidence found beyond reasonable doubt against 14, and charge sheet has not been filed against 6 on the same principle of not finding evidence beyond reasonable doubt.
So there were questions that the Aryan Khan as a person and all these 6 individuals had commercial quantity of drugs with them. And since you have already stated that there were some loopholes, there was a parallel investigation which was also ordered by you, looking at the lapses from the few of the official side. What has been the status of that?
That will come into the picture very soon, but the point is that obviously there were some issues for which normally the SIT is not constituted, neither case is taken over normally, but obviously the circumstances were not normal, and obviously we had to look into this, and it was a question of NCB's credibility, so we had to take on those cases, and as a result of a very rigorous investigation, we have come to the conclusion that I have just narrated.
So your officers must have told you that what are the clinching evidence against those 14 individuals because of which they have been charge sheeted in this case, and what not has been found against them. Can you please briefly tell it to our viewers so that they can have better clarity? Because looking at the kind of individuals who were involved, several questions will be raised on this pioneer agency which has been working day in and day out against the anti-narcotic things.
First of all, let me place on record that we are open to all scrutiny of this investigation that has been just completed. We are open to all scrutiny, and obviously it will be open to judicial scrutiny also. But to come back to your question as to what evidence was found, in short I can say it's going to be sub judice, so it is not a matter of going into details. But all I can say is evidence, physical evidence, stroke drugs were found in possession with those who were charge sheeted, and not enough evidence was found, conclusive evidence was found against those who were not charge sheeted.
Certainly we'll go into the detail, whatever detail have come. For the benefit of Hindi viewers, sir, NCB ने आज charge sheet file की है. कौन से लोग हैं जिनके खिलाफ आपने चार्ज शीट फाइल की है, और कुछ नाम है आर्यन खान जिसमें इंपॉर्टेंट हमें नजर आए क्योंकि शाहरुख खान के बेटे हैं, इनके खिलाफ क्यों एविडेंस नहीं मिला सर?
देखिए, हम लोग कोई नाम विशेष पर नहीं जाना चाहते हैं. स्पष्ट बात है कि एक ड्रग रिलेटेड मामले में केस था, और शायद अगर कुछ नाम ऐसे नहीं होते तो शायद ये नॉर्मल केस ही माना जाता, और इस रूटीन केस को हम लोगों ने इन्वेस्टिगेशन SIT लेवल पर इसलिए लाया क्योंकि कुछ कमियां रह गई थी जो स्थानीय इन्वेस्टिगेशन हुआ था उसमें, और उसके आधार पर NCB के क्रेडिबिलिटी का सवाल था, तो इसलिए हम लोगों ने उसको जांच किया, और जांच करने के उपरांत हम लोगों ने पाया कि 20 में से 14 लोगों पर सफिशिएंट फिजिकल और अन्य एविडेंस पाए गए, और 6 लोगों पर एविडेंस नहीं पाया गया.
सर, ये वो 6 नाम हैं जिनके खिलाफ अगर आप बता सके कि क्या चीजें थीं जो वो 14 के खिलाफ मिली सबूत, और क्या वो 6 चीजें थीं जो वो इन 6 लोगों के खिलाफ नहीं मिल पाई?
ये सब जुडिस मामला है, इसलिए ज्यादा टिप्पणी करना मुनासिब नहीं है, उचित नहीं है, लेकिन इतना कह सकता हूं कि फिजिकल एविडेंस और सर्कमस्टेंशियल एविडेंस पाया गया, पोजेशन इत्यादि पाया गया जिनके खिलाफ चार्जशीट हुई है, और जिनके खिलाफ नहीं हुई है उनके खिलाफ किसी तरह का जो क्लिंचिंग एविडेंस नहीं पाया गया, जिसको बियॉन्ड रीजनेबल डाउट का जो प्रिंसिपल है, जिसको माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय ने भी कई बार दोहराया है कि बियॉन्ड रीजनेबल डाउट होना चाहिए. NDPS एक्ट जरूर स्ट्रिंजेंट और स्ट्रिक्ट एक्ट है, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि बियॉन्ड रीजनेबल डाउट का प्रिंसिपल उस पर लागू नहीं होता. तो इसीलिए हम लोगों ने इसी प्रिंसिपल के आधार पर जो भी कार्रवाई की है, इसी सिद्धांत के आधार पर.
सर, आपके लिए एक आम केस था, लेकिन जाहिर सी बात है सवाल उठेंगे, लोग आके पूछेंगे. क्या आप ऑल स्क्रूटनी कोर्ट के थ्रू पे तो आप जाएंगे, ऐसी क्या चीजें हैं जो NCB के अधिकारियों के खिलाफ ही आप लोग ने खुद से इन्वेस्टिगेशन शुरू किया, और अभी उसका स्टेटस क्या है सर? और आर्यन खान के खिलाफ जो कहा जा रहा है कि क्लीन चिट दे दी गई है, क्या एविडेंसेस नहीं मिले? क्योंकि मैं क्वेश्चन बहुत स्पेसिफिक है सर, आपके लिए एक आम केस होगा, लेकिन हाई प्रोफाइल होने के कारण जनता जानना चाहेगी और लोग सवाल पूछेंगे.
देखिए हम लोग मैं स्पष्ट कहना चाहता हूं, पब्लिकली कहना चाहता हूं कि जो एसआईटी का इन्वेस्टिगेशन हुआ है उस पर पूरी स्क्रूटनी होगी, जुडिशियल स्क्रूटनी भी होगी और किसी तरह की भी स्क्रूटनी पर हम लोग तैयार हैं, इसमें कोई दिक्कत की बात नहीं।
और सर आपकी खुद की जो जांच थी आपके अधिकारियों के अगेंस्ट, उसका क्या स्टेटस है?
जांच अभी कंक्लूसिव स्टेज पर है, उसका भी जो भी रिजल्ट है वो शीघ्र ही पता चल जाएगा।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमसे बात करने के लिए। तो ये लेटेस्ट इन्फॉर्मेशन है, जो हमारे साथ एक्सक्लूसिव बात कहते हैं एसएन प्रधान, और इनका कहना है कि जितने भी सवाल उठेंगे उसकी लीगल स्क्रूटनी के लिए जो एनसीबी की टीम है पूरी तरीके से तैयार है। ऑल द लीगल फ्रेमवर्क हैज बीन डन, ऑल द डॉक्यूमेंट्स आर इन प्लेस सो दैट इफ इट ऑल क्वेश्चंस आर बीइंग रेज्ड, द एनसीबी ऑफिशियल्स विल रिस्पॉन्ड टू द कोर्ट वेयर द चार्जशीट हैज बीन फाइल्ड। बैक टू इन द स्टूडियो, there you saw NCB chief exclusively speaking to the Times Network.
Right. So that's a statement from the NCB chief. All eyes are going to be on what next. Arunil is also live with us. He had also spoken to Samir Wankhede. All right. We have Sanjay also on the phone line with us. Mr. Sanjay Singh, if you can tell us, because there's a lot of interest on what exactly happened. Aryan Khan was in jail for 26 days, after which the NCB tells the court that there was no evidence at all. So what exactly happened?
Mr. Singh, your audio is on mute, sir. Can you unmute yourself? We will try and reconnect that connection with Mr. Singh. But Arunil, in the meantime, the principle of evidence that has been followed, what is being said by the NCB so far, and a voluminous charge sheet we are told that has been filed in this case.
Well, 6,000-page charge sheet being filed by the Narcotics Control Bureau. Now, what is more significant in this case, Amita, is that immediately after the arrest of Aryan Khan, there was an arrest memo that was being released by the Narcotics Control Bureau, and in which the quantity of drugs recovered from Aryan Khan, his name was mentioned on the arrest memo by the NCB. Now, a complete U-turn coming from the NCB side. The NCB in the charge sheet saying that there were no drugs that was recovered from superstar actor Shah Rukh Khan's son. So clean sheet been given to Aryan Khan. Then who exactly was lying? Because the kind of questions that were raised on Samir Wankhede and his investigation and his team, because the witnesses also, we saw how Kiran Gosavi, KP Gosavi as he was called, he basically had some criminal complaints against him. He is at present in Yerwada jail. NCB officers went and met him at Yerwada jail as well to know and understand how the entire drug bust thing had happened on Cordelia Cruise. Why KP Gosavi and Manish Bhanushali witness why they had gone to Ahmedabad in Gujarat, and together why they came on the same day of the raids. These are some of the baffling questions that have come to the fore. And Prabhakar Sale, one of the key witness, he had come out in the open and said that there was an attempt to do extortion by the NCB officers from the superstar actor Shah Rukh Khan. Now these were extremely serious allegations, and here NCB senior officers also saying that indeed Samir Wankhede and his team come under the ambit of investigation. We directly posed the question to Samir Wankhede as well. Obviously, he didn't respond because he didn't have anything to say. But now what happens next? Because if you look at it, Aryan Khan has spent as many as close to 1 month of time in Arthur Road jail. That is a very substantial amount of time that he has spent inside the jail.
Absolutely.
There were
and
lower
fighting that case for Aryan Khan was Mr. Mukul Rohatgi also, which had finally secured him bail after 26 days. Let's play out that conversation that we had with him a short while back, saying that better sense has now prevailed with the NCB. Listen in.
It is no surprise to me, because when I argued the bail more than 6 months ago, at that time itself it was clear that there was no material against Aryan Khan. He was wrongly accused, he was wrongly arrested, he was not in possession of any narcotics at all. So how can there be any case? But I am happy that the NCB has realized that there was no case against him, and therefore the charge sheet has not been filed, and he has been honorably left out of the picture and discharged. ultimately good sense has prevailed. They have realized that there is no point flogging a dead horse just because he is a celebrity or he is the son of a celebrity. And therefore, ultimately truth has prevailed, and I am happy about it.
Mr. Sanjay Singh is with us right now on the broadcast. Sir, if you're able to hear us now, can you exactly tell us where the NCB investigation is headed, sir? Now being said that there was insufficient proof against Aryan Khan.
Yes,
All right, we'll just try and reconnect that line with Mr. Sanjay Singh once again. We head into a short break. This is a rolling non-stop live coverage right here on Times Now. Stay tuned.